I'm Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full-service intellectual property law firm specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing marketing, and I have my own startups.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the show where we talk with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Today, we have Dr. Travis Fox and Michelle Fox, who are the founders of the Ultimate Business Quest.
And that is going to be an amazing discussion. And then we have two really incredible presenters. Caleb Ulffers is a client of Gearhart Law. And if you're going to the gym, you want to check out his product. It'll really make a difference for you. Okay. And Mark Bonin has this incredible app if you're going to do events. And I saw another event plan. No, blows everything you've seen out of the water.
Great. But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And what is the IP news of the day?
The government actually had to pay a software developer for copyright infringement for using their software without a license.
Our government?
The Navy, to be
really?
Yes.
Wow. And what did they do?
So I guess we're talking to the software company about this app, and they said, well, you need to buy licenses from us. And they just started using it without the licenses.
They should know better, especially if they're in a license negotiation.
Well, and so they got taken to court, but of course it was a government court. So
Yes, the court of claims. So if you sue the government or you want to sue the government, you don't go to a regular court. You have to go to the government court of claims, which of course yields completely unbiased decisions. Right. And so
they would never favor the government.
So the company sued it. The company is GmbH, and they sued for $600 million. And the court agreed that they were infringers, but they only got $120 in damages.
No, 150,000.
Right. That's what I said.
Did you guys hear $120 or did you hear 150,000?
No, she's right. It is 154,000.
Gaslight me?
Yes, I am. It's about time somebody did. But in any case, it was a ridiculously small verdict for the infringement, but they did win a victory in the sense that the Navy had to uninstall the software. If you could call that a victory, I think the company would have rather
had the Navy pay.
The Navy pay the regular rates than win $154,000 in court. So it's time for Richard's Roundtable, and I would like to ask our guests what they think of this IP situation. Dr. Travis and Michelle, welcome to the show. What do you think about all this?
Small businesses already struggle with building their tech, or even building an app is so much time and energy. So, I mean, the difficult thing is first how, to even respond for me would be how much would be the license if they were to actually purchase it? How long did they actually utilize it? And then that should have really been what they paid along with all the attorney fees. So if that comes out to the 154, okay. If not, they definitely got the short end of the stick.
Right. It was a government expert who put it at a low level for each license.
Right. So they had originally claimed $1,000 per license, and the court awarded them $200 per license.
And not for every license either.
And not for every license because it was in a network, and so it was. I without really studying the facts, you can't really say that is unreasonable, but certainly they spent $150,000 litigating the case for sure.
Easily.
Easily. So anyway. Yep. But so sometimes these things work out, but at least the Navy has been put on notice, right? Travis, you have any thoughts?
Well, I'm Dr. Travis Fox, and I play a doctor on TV, not a lawyer. So just want to get that really crystal clear.
Well, you did have some good legal advice earlier before the show. So
yeah.
See,
But beware the fool on the side of the road offering free advice. So that being said, I would have fascinated to say, gee, I wonder if they had been stronger. And this is something small businesses we encourage all the time, is not just go from copyright, but also trademark and patent. There's different laws. Now I realize we're in the court of claims and it does have a different scenario, but the infringement on traditional courts, if I may be so bold, is a pretty significant structure when you infringe on trademark and patent. So for me, it's something we, especially when you're in IT space, is really go beyond the copyright. And secondly, I find it, how did the court get away with bias? That's where I'm.
Right. And we couldn't agree with you more on getting all the intellectual property protection you can.
You know, we are in total sync on that one.
Yeah, just sure, just want to, and I defer to counsel. I just go from my experience, but that's what I would have went for. Because copyright to me it's great and it's strong, but it's not as strong as other IP, especially when you're getting into tech, and specifically when you're going for government contracts. You have to be ironclad there, and in that case, I think they would have come out fared better. I also would have, and I don't know that they did this because I don't know the case in any way. I would have petitioned the court for like a motion to compel for them to fulfill their contract as the original licensing when they were in negotiations, because they had prior knowledge of it. And that would have something I would have seen if we could have gone for, but I'm not the lawyer, so I defer to counsel.
Right. I mean, it's pretty stinky if you give them a copy of the software, they get to test it and then they run off with it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but any case,
sure if I test drove a car and drove off the lot, it probably would have significant penalties. So I think that would be analogous.
Then the note to self of every small business owner is that when you do a demo, do the demo. Don't hand over the keys yet until you see the money.
Right.
Smart advice.
That is a great takeaway. Yeah. Kenya, what are your thoughts?
I was going to say the only thing I can add is they probably should have had maybe better counsel and maybe hired Gearhart Law.
You're right, Kenya. Absolutely. You are one smart cookie.
Yeah, no wonder we have you on the show. No, but you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think what Michelle just said about not handing over the keys and giving them a free license and all that should have been much more closely controlled. And lots of times smaller software companies or any company can be a little naive sometime. And quite honestly, dealing with the Navy, you wouldn't necessarily expect that, but you know.
But I think to both your points, you need a law firm that's not just going to say, okay, we registered your copyright, see you later. You need a more holistic view. You need a strategy. And I mean, that's something Richard's super good at, is sitting down with somebody and doing a whole IP strategy and also business strategy, because he was on business teams in corporate. So he understands a lot of this stuff.
Well, thank you for that nice compliment. I truly appreciate it. And with that, we'll go on to Mark. Mark, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone. I think that's a tough look for the military. And when you think about all the efforts that business have had to do to negotiate the contract, develop the product, that's kind of a small payday for them. And I don't know if that happened often, but if it happened often with military, it's a pattern, and then entrepreneur will want to build less business for military. So might hurt innovation in the long term if that became a pattern. So not a good look, I would say.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point. And you know, what's interesting is that the military actually spends tremendous amounts on IP for their technology.
Right. And they do a lot of research.
They do a lot of research, and they spend a lot of money on patents. So it's sort of like, well, we want to protect our stuff and control our stuff, but
we want to take yours.
So
Caleb,
Caleb, what's up?
Hey, I don't think I have anything else to add. Like, perfect thoughts across the board. It's really hard to start a business, and the last person you want to be hurt by in any form is the government of the country in which you started it.
Right. It's taking your tax dollars and using them to fight you in court.
Yeah.
This is not a political show, so we never talk about politics. So, but what's going on here is sort of down at the lower levels of the government that would happen regardless of administration, I think. Right. So it's not meant to be anything other than that. But
Well, this fight's probably been going on for years. So
yeah,
it's multiple administrations.
multiple
It's-
administrations for
Yeah.
sure. So
I would say too, it's actually pretty frustrating knowing where the government and especially the military like overspends in the budgets. And, you hear kind of the horror stories about Joe Schmo that got paid 10x pricing for some nuts and bolts. And, you've just kind of heard some stories like that. And so then when you see it kind of reversed in this way, that's actually really harmful to an American business person. That's kind of adds insult to injury.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. It almost sends the message that if you're a big defense contractor and selling jet fighters, you can go over budget 15 times and go from a $1 billion estimate to a $22 billion cost, whereas they can't even pay like a software company something that would be more reasonable in terms of compensation. So a lot of different angles to the story. It's actually been pretty fascinating. But now it's time to get to our distinguished guests, Dr. Travis Fox and Michelle S. Fox. We presume you're married. Is that correct statement?
Well, how do you define married? Let's define that legally first, sir.
Okay, put up your left hand.
Well, are your
Let's see your
brother?
left hand.
Are you
What if you're
brothers and
dyslexic?
sisters?
Isn't that?
Okay,
isn't
I just
that,
wanted to
you know,
make sure.
Yes, we
Okay.
are. To answer your question, yes, we are. But you can tell we take very little seriously.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're perfect for the show.
Right.
But even though they
We were doing the show once, and this woman was kind of flirting with Richard. And I was like, "Excuse me," and she's like, "Oh, I thought you were brother and sister."
That's
This was
something.
back in the studio years ago.
I don't remember anybody flirting with
I
me.
remember it.
I don't recall it this time, Senator.
But Dr. Travis, he's a pretty interesting guy, as in addition to being obviously witty, he's an Emmy Award winner, and he has been creating a new product for entrepreneurs called the Ultimate Business Quest. And not only that, he has PhDs in both psychology and hypnotherapy. But their mission, Michelle and Travis's mission, is to help entrepreneurs. And Travis has been named by Yahoo Finance as a top 20 entrepreneur for 2020 and a top 10 Instagram influencer. And Michelle, she has a diverse corporate background and entrepreneurial career, having sat on multiple boards before the age of 30. So a real power couple here with an enormous influence, and we're really grateful to have you on the show. So thank you very much for coming here. So tell us about Business Quest, the Ultimate Business Quest, and what it's all about and how it got started.
Oh, you want me to do that one? I think that's deferment right there. She deferred that to me. Ultimate Business Quest for me and for my part is a 30-year journey. When you talk about, for example, in the intro opener, we talk about standard cognitive psychology. We talk about mindset training. Well, let's start with the basics. Most mindset training, by the time you attempt to get to it, you're already pretty set in your ways, and we don't really have a path that made it fun to how do I actually change my belief structures? And we've always bifurcated business into, hey, here's the entrepreneurial journey. Here's my path to whatever they want for their legacy, wealth, independence, freedom. And then here's my self-transformational development. They're always very separate. And the only way that they seem to cross over was in business, when you crash and burn, you finally go, hey, let me go check out my life, commonly called a midlife crisis, or vice versa. I've been so into the self-transformation, self-development that I don't really know how to get out of the woo-woo and translate that over into entrepreneurialism. Mm-hmm. Our philosophy is they're one and the same. In fact, all the companies that we've worked with or for throughout our career with all of us in the company is that the number one thing we found was the individuals themselves were generally the problem with the company. It's not the product nor the service, it's them. They are the glass ceiling that became the problem, as well as the company culture. So we said about 2.5 years ago, I came to Michelle on the board and said, hey, we need to transform these two industries in a really fun way. And here's why. At a thematic level or theme level, if you're having fun, you'll do it. If you're not, if it's a grind, if you're having to do 18-hour days, yeah, you'll kind of do it, but you'll burn out. Or you'll run into body problems where your body, or to end up in Caleb's world, you'll have some sort of scenario where your body's failing or your relationships suffer. Our entire philosophy is, if life has an endpoint, which we all agree that it does, and it's non-negotiable, wouldn't it be fun to take an adventure of a lifetime, grow the business that you want while you're still in balance with your personal relationships, not unlike we are, but also too, making sure that your body makes the entire journey. You don't have to get so out of balance that you crash and burn. That's my part. I defer to you.
And how it actually began was we had a academy that had grown 845 or 47%. And it was all the self-transformation. And, but it was so, us related, where we always had to be a part of every single event that was taking place. So it only could grow and expand based off of how much time we had. And yeah, Travis was like, this has to be an app. And so when we sat down with it, we're like, but it's not an app for self-transformation. The need right now in the market is business. So we locked ourselves away for about 2 weeks and started to draw a fantasy map of the entire journey of an entrepreneur, whether that be their failures, the pit of excuses is what we call, what is their legacy, like every single piece for a business owner to really dive in so they don't have to go to those stupid seminars that are $20,000, $30,000 where they get a little morsel, a huge hype, and then they get out of the seminar and they're like, well, how do I apply it?
Or they get upsold to the next one for 100,000 for another one.
That's
more.
what
now.
But wait, there's more.
You'll learn how to apply it before
Right,
if you
if you
pay
call
more.
now.
Exactly.
Right.
I downloaded your app
Thank you.
and it looks so cool. I can hardly wait to play this game. It's a fantasy game. So I mean, your trailer on your website it's just hilarious. Everybody should go to the website. What's the name of your website?
ultimatebusinessquest.com.
And watch the trailer. You will be laughing. And it's very cool. And you'll kind of get a flavor for what this game is like. If you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to love this, right? But I just found this idea fascinating. I like making learning really fun for adults, right?
Well, and that became the thing, right? So we can make this really clinical. We can make it really heady. We can make personality typing really difficult and deep. Why?
Yeah.
That negates the fun. If you look at fun and culture, and we know this, momentum is one of the key things in any battlefield in history of time, momentum. So if you have momentum, which is driven by a thematic called fun, now we can actually transform the company on a dime. It doesn't get into argumentative. It doesn't have to be, he said, she said. It doesn't have to be these big board meetings where people are throwing things at each other. Oh, that's our meetings though. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Anyway, but my point being, when you actually look at what's behind it, we're talking about the true clinicals, which is called synthesiastic movement, where we actually move into the fantasy world. We do this in movies every single day. We get involved in this movie. We're engrossed in the characters. We feel the emotions. We're attached to it. And then we leave the movie theater, and then we'll talk about that and bring it back to our reality. Well, there's an actual real psychological technique that we use where we throw you into a fantasy world. And at that moment, all of those things that you would call a limiting belief structure, I can't do it, I don't know, that's not my job, I'm scared of success. By the way, that's the number one thing out there. It's not fear of public speaking. It's actually fear of success. You can actually transform them in the fantasy world, which in our language, if we're going to break it down, is your subconscious or your emotional traumatic level. That makes it less scary to go look at that dungeon, if I may be so bold, of those things that are holding you back. And the way we designed it, it actually flips right back into your quote unquote real world. So now we're using all aspects of you, both cognitive and conscious, subconscious, but more importantly, we're diving into the parts of you that need to be transformed that allow you to become, because you didn't wake up a billionaire, you have to become one. You didn't wake up a CEO, you have to become one. You didn't wake up with the intelligence, you have to learn it. So if we're not putting in a thematic of fun, we found out, and we all been through this, raise your hand. How many of you remember school sucked? Raise your hand. Right. And guess what? All of us right now, if I did it
twice.
Right. Yeah, both. Right. So if you look back, how many of your teachers' names do you actually remember? How much of what you learned do you cognitively remember? And the reason why is rote over time. Yes, it does work, but it doesn't work as well as application. When we actually drop it into the fantasy realm, it instantly transforms you, and it transforms your business.
So I think a lot of our listeners are people who are thinking about making that step into entrepreneurism. And it sounds to me like even if you don't have a business, but you're thinking about starting one, this is a way to get some experience and a sense of what it's like, because there are some people who are simply not ready to invest the time or take the risk to start a business. But if you are, then having this app could be an excellent educational tool.
Right.
It's
And I just
actually
want to,
perfect for them.
Yeah.
yeah, and I want to make a comment on what you said too. There are so many studies, and I know you're all aware of all these, but movement is really cements things into your consciousness, right? And so if you're just sitting there in a chair listening to something, I don't think, I mean, I always took a lot of notes in college because the movement of my hand and writing it down helps cement it in my brain. So I think that going through this process and this game of yours really will help cement the knowledge better, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and even just to your point, for example, what if you could go and say, let's go back to the number one fear. Excuse me. Everyone says number one fear is public speaking. Well, if you're going to start a business, or even if you're working for a business, you've got to be able to talk about it. You got to be able to go to network and be able to say what it is. Most people freak out and can't do that. So what if we gave you a way where you could ask 2 simple questions that are completely non-evasive, and you know exactly the type of person you're talking to at that moment? Now then it becomes a quest. It becomes an adventure. Oh, that person's this, that. Like, for example, when you were talking about your writing, I immediately know that you're in your wizard mind. I know exactly how to talk to you. If I can give you a analytical structure, you'll hear everything I say. But if I go over here in Fantasyland and go, we're going to go out in the woods, we're going to hug a tree, bro, we're going to do a fire, you're going to be like, this guy's off his freaking rocker, has no idea what he's talking about. And that's all just from being able to go, oh, I understand who I'm talking to. And we learn through archetypal symbology that we've developed over 20 years on the front lines with our partner, Aaron Huey. Said, hey, look, if we're working with at-risk teenagers in the #1 residential treatment center in the United States, and we did this model, we realized that from the clinical side, we had movement. But the moment we threw them into the fantasy realm and we could help them identify their personality parts, they transformed themselves. We said, wait a minute. What if we made all of this transformational stuff, all the business information we have, and we made it fun and an adventure, and we married the two together? Now you've got a game. So I know that I'm looking at 2 of you. I've got a wizard and I got a warrior. I know exactly how to talk to you guys. I know how to make you guys work together. I know what positions to put you in regardless of resume. And now all of a sudden we're team building on a culture, and everybody realizes they're in their mastership, and now they're not afraid.
I want to know, before we go further, what is archetypical symbology?
I could tell you, but you'd have to download the app first.
So how does the app start? I download the app, then walk me through sort of a day in the life of an ultimate business quest user.
Quester.
You're first going to go
quester.
to a map itself, and that map will take you through the actual journey of an entrepreneur from start to finish. So it's all going to be video or audio. So sometimes we'll have you close your eyes and imagine and envision. There are worksheets, there are templates that you can take for your business. There are software ideas and concepts we provide. There are links to just particular softwares per part of your business. So if you need operational help, if you need marketing help, we suggest a lot of different softwares so that small business owners, if they're on a budget, they can utilize software that's free. If somebody is, doing a turnaround for their company, whether it be, crashing and burning, and they need to figure out how to turn it around, we teach them about that. Your full business plan. And soon our next version coming out will actually be something extremely exciting, but it'll take you even more so to be able to create and build your business right inside the app.
So here's a perfect example. Listen to our 2 answers. Hers was very logical, linear, told you exactly what's going to happen. Wizard. I fall into the warrior illusionist archetype, where I'm going to tell you the story, a metaphoric story. So you're getting this. And this is what happens in the app. It is actually an adventure and a story, by the way. It is gameplay. And the reason being, it's got to be fun. So we don't throw you into the fantasy world. But the first thing you're going to do, you're going to find out who you are. You're going to take the archetypal personality quiz right up front. You're going to determine how you're going to play the game. What you're going to find out is, and I'm going to leave this as a cliffhanger, and yes, it's by design, so everybody listening know that I'm doing a cliffhanger, is you're going to start the game one way. You're going to find out that when you finish map 2, now rolling map 3, you're another person, because what really happens is most people try to do a quadratic model, 1 of 4. I'm going to put myself in these 4 boxes. You're more than that. The problem with the quadratic model is it makes the assumption that you're in this one quadratic. Here's the challenge. That means 75% of your personality is sitting on the sideline, and we wonder why we can't break through. because we're not using all of our entire being, conscious, subconscious, emotional, traumatic, and thematic, all working together, firing so that your full potential is there. So that's how you're going to start the game, but how you finish is completely different.
So
Wow. Yeah, I was just going to say, you guys are really smart. Kenya, do you have anything to ask our guests?
She's the smart one. Remember, she had a good response.
Oh. So it sounds like you're rewiring people cognitively, which is great, right? So how are you building these modules? Like what data are you using? What experiences are you using? Are they coming from like real life entrepreneurial situations?
Oh yeah.
All of the above.
Yes.
But within the 4 Questmasters that we do have inside map 1 and map 2, and another one in map 3, it's over 100 years of experience on the front lines. So we've taken that information along with all the stats that you can find in terms of business, when they fail, why they fail, the percentage of failure, and then built that into our map as well of like, okay, here's all of our experience, but what is the world saying and the statistics saying, and does it fit? Did we actually experience it ourselves?
And true, it's a blueprint. So I want to be really crystal clear. This is what my challenge was when I was in the self-help industry, is most of those modules using the language is be like me. Don't be like me. That's the dumbest thing in the history of life. You can't be like me. And I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be you. And so what this does is gives you a blueprint. And the ideology behind it is everything in our world is based on a blueprint. We build a house, we build cities, we build infrastructure, we build tech, all on blueprint. Why don't we have a blueprint on how do we really build a business while we're building the culture, while we're building ourselves, while we're improving our sales, while we're building our business plan? We don't really have that. We have bits and pieces that are fragmented, and we go to the internet to find these quote unquote gurus. And next thing you know, we end up in the law office trying to figure out what the heck just happened.
That's great. This has been an amazing discussion. We have to take a commercial break, but we'll be right back with more Passage to Profit after this.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Dr. Travis Fox and Michelle Fox. We have just had the most amazing first part of the discussion with them about how, as an entrepreneur, you can use their game to get your brain to behave the way you want it to so that you can be successful with your business. And they've got a lot more to tell us. So without further ado, let's jump back into the conversation.
Sure. What's it like working together as a husband and wife team?
I really like it. It's really fun because the times that I don't want to go to a meeting, he'll go.
That's the real reason she likes it. She's got a stunt double. Apparently,
I agree. Elizabeth and I work together too, and so there's a little strategy on how you get the other person to kind of focus on their strengths versus which her strengths are. Really, my weaknesses are her strengths. So we figured that out.
Perfect.
Exactly. It's the strengths and the weaknesses. We complement each other really, really well. Even though he can do everything that I do, I can do everything that he does. It's our strengths and weaknesses are so complementary, and it's a lot of fun. I really love to be around him all the time. And when we go to the gym together, we go to every meeting together, we're working together. I mean, all the time. We are just joined at the hip. And when I first started my businesses before we were together, it was a struggle as a woman CEO, especially in the tech space. It was extremely difficult. If you even look at the statistics, trying to get funded as a woman CEO is nearly impossible. So when Travis and I got together, and he was like, "Hey, you're the better man for the job," which was fantastically hilarious. And I was the CEO. He's the board, the chairman of the board. He jumped in and helped with our funding because it was non-existent for me. And it was such a struggle, but having that tag team and really trusting each other has been fantastic and a lot of fun.
One thing we find is that and then I'll let you go.
No.
The one thing I think is really a strength for the two of us in synergy, and this usually happens in the car, is that we are really good at brainstorming together and coming up with solutions and new ideas. But I'm sorry, Travis, you were going to say something.
Oh, no, you were actually wonderfully said. That was part of what each of us, let's dive down here. We talk about legacy. People want to build a business. I want to make a lot of money. Yeah, great. We both have done that. But then if your relationship isn't solid, or if you're single, well, great. That sucks. No offense. It just does. Been there, done it myself. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but for most people, you want to have a partner, a legacy you can share with, a family you can pass it on to, friends that you can go. I use an example that's in the app. We share a metaphoric story, but once I actually climbed Kilimanjaro when I was 48 years old, never climbed a mountain before in my life. And I learned two major lessons. One, when you get to the top, that's only halfway because you got to climb back down or you die. So that's a little misnomer switch. I had to learn that the hard way. And the second was, I was up there with just my climbing partner and myself. There was nobody to share with. I could never relate the experience. I can tell you the story, but it's like describing sex to a virgin. It doesn't matter until you actually experience it with it. I can't translate it. So to be able to build a business from the idea, literally the idea, all the way to the exit with your partner, well, isn't that really what we all really want at the end of the day? I mean, we all say we want to build a business, we want to grow, make a lot of money, have a lot of experiences. But if you're not sharing it with somebody, at the end of the day, what legacy have you really left? I mean, without passion, purpose, mission, vision, and a legacy, you kind of left some of the things on the table. And that was what we really wanted to create. And then all of the people in the company have the exact same culture.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great that we have each other as sort of audiences for our successes and support for non-successes, and that you share that nobody could replace Elizabeth.
Right.
Well, that's good.
Well, and also too, let's go back to the top of the show. The top of the show was about a violation of trust. Well, who's going to be at your back, but your partner, who's also your partner in your business? And I'm talking about in this case, a primary relationship, and however you define that is up to you. But for us, it was like, hey, trust is something that you want to eliminate immediately from your business as much as absolutely humanly possible. So when you start with the nucleus of, hey, this is a partnership on every level, then immediately now we know we have the best interest in each other's heart. We're not trying to screw each other. We're not doing politics in the boardroom. We're not jockeying for positions. We're always got each other's back. And then we built the entire culture the exact same way in our thematics, our trust, loyalty, and communication, which is powered by fun. If it's not fun, we're not going to do it. Nope. It's really simple.
Yeah. We should go hang out with them more.
Yeah, we should. Where do you guys live?
No, on Apple and Android. Download the app. You can have us every single day.
Where are you guys geographically, though?
Las Vegas, St. George, Utah, and Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So we're on the East Coast.
We're on the East Coast.
We're ex-Californians, though.
Yeah.
We vacated because of the business model, because it became challenging to do business in California. We just said, we're done. And people were always upset because they're in traffic. I know, I used to be one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a joke. Okay, that didn't work. We'll go back to that later.
I always wanted to create an app. I probably shouldn't go public. It's called Tell Off Your Boss, where when you were in the car on the way home, you could yell at your boss, and your boss, you could get a picture of him or her, and they would get smaller and smaller and smaller the more upset you got, and then it would reach a certain point, they would just explode. And then you could have, so that's, you're free to incorporate that, or tell off the president, or tell off any authority figure that you want,
or opposing counsel in
or
your case.
or opposing counsel.
Yes, most definitely.
So Kenya, we want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So curious to know, do you have any case studies of anyone that you've worked with that has had a really great outcome using your platform?
On our website, there's two or three videos at the bottom that are a few of our actual video testimonials. And then we have some written ones on there as well.
Yeah. To give you a deeper visual, for example, we actually give out, and this is because of as a preemptive strike, you'll hear this in the app, but we actually give out awards every month, no strings attached, for people who have done things like Ultimate Warrior Award, Ultimate Wizard Award. For example, one of the awards we just gave out 2 months ago, and we give out cash prizes. Again, we'll show up, we surprise you. It's very reminiscent of Publishers Clearinghouse. For those of you who know what that was, I'm dating myself. And the idea was to start up your business is difficult. And sometimes you just need someone to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And as we watch people go through the app and transform their lives, their businesses, we said, you know what, this is a way to do that. One individual did it who's a high school graduate. He was a pool cleaning service, had his business. All he did, he got into the app. 90 days later, he tripled his business, and the business is now up for sale for over $1 million. And so we found him, tracked him down, walked in, gave him $1,000 and said, hey man, this is the Ultimate Jester Award, because in the midst of all of that, he was also apprenticing. He was also going back to school. He got married. He balanced his entire life in his relationship. Now he's put that business up for sale. And he then out of that came to us and said, I've now found my true passion and purpose. And he's going on to take that money to build health and recovery centers all around the world. So for us, those are the type of stories we're looking for. We have them every single day. And then we, like I said, we'll show up at your doorstep and just hand you cash and say, good job. Here
And they're
it
not
is.
only entrepreneurs. We
No.
had two employees actually that had gotten an award. One was a manager of Petco, actually. And we had no idea she didn't own her business. We showed up and we were at Petco and she spent the majority of her money on her staff and her team by getting them new uniforms. And she was beaming. It was that appreciation again. And so even employees that want to become better managers or move up the corporate ladder also can utilize the app as well.
Absolutely.
I think that's an awesome idea because lots of time, unless you're the CEO, you don't really appreciate all the things that are going on, all the plates that are spinning. You see your one little world, but you don't necessarily appreciate that the accounting has to work right so that the money gets in, and the marketing has to work right. So this sounds to me like a good educational tool for anybody who has a job that at least will broaden your perspective on what a business does, and you'll get a chance to experience all the different parts.
Well, you're going to have a lot better life if you're an employee at a company, if you really understand this stuff and understand what the company's all about, right? You're going to.
I think there's two fundamental problems in corporate America. Number one is that the CEOs and managers talk to their employees as they work for them, like slaves. I'm like, well, no, they actually work with you. You are not higher than or better than them. You are guiding them, but you're working alongside them, which is our philosophy. And the second fundamental problem is that the employees do not understand what it takes to create and build a company. So just the sheer fact of being able to go through the app and be like, oh my gosh, is that what it took to build this organization that I'm working for? So it's a twofold thing with companies. And we're actually having too many people come to us saying, hey, can I work with you guys? Can I come in? Can I come into the realm? We're like, we would love to, but we can't have everybody.
We're managing that hockey stick growth thing, right? But also too, we designed the app for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who are starting their own business and startup all the way to, and it's levels. You qualify yourself. We actually give you a qualification. What level of business are you at? You answer your own questions. That's how you start to play the quest. We also built it for employees. So that's whether you're just getting your first job or you're just out of university and looking for the job market, or your middle management looking to move up, or if you're a C-level executive who's maybe contemplating other boards or flat out, like you said earlier, going on their entrepreneurial journey. And as a company culture, we encourage companies, everybody download the app and go through it together, because there's gameplay in there that you can do that culturalizes, strengthens your sales team, but it does it in fun. As opposed to, we're going to do leadership training for 4 hours where everybody falls asleep. Nobody cares, right? Let's go play the game, because we're fun. Leadership naturally happens. Communal happens. We start to build stronger bonds, but we're also now focused on what's the end objective. The end objective is, this is what the KPIs are. This is what our sales team's doing. This is what our hiring and firing process looks like. And now all of a sudden we move from, oh my gosh, I'm in survival mode, quasi-limbic. We move into prefrontal cortex. We're thinking, we're designing, we're creating, we're on an adventure. Look, man, when you build a business, you're on an adventure. If you say that you're not, you're flat out lying to yourself, because you don't know everything. Some things are quasi-predictable based on percentage statistics, but let's be honest, there's variables. But if you make that fun, then the variables become interesting, because now you're talking with your whole team. We're not keeping the information separate from the management, from the sales team, from the HR department. Everything's not in that quadratic model. It's, no, we're all in this together. This is the adventure we all subscribe to go through. This is the end objective. Let's go do that top of the mountain, and then we'll go from there.
Well, the other thing, just quickly, is a lot of people, like Richard's very successful with his law firm, and he's really had a successful life, but we still, even though I've been there a lot of the way, I don't know everything he does about it, but we still feel like there's things we can learn. Like, I'm constantly learning. So I'm going to do this because I'm starting other businesses, and I just feel like there's still a lot I can learn.
Yeah, I think absolutely.
Yeah, the psychology of, like, when I turned 50 a couple of years ago, I went to the board and I said, hey guys, it's official now, and I want to make this announcement. I said, it's official. I know two things. I know Jack and I know crap. Everything else is going to be fun. So if we can take that position and have fun with it, because what we really approach is, and if you look back from the psychological, and Kenya, I know you're gonna have a question on this one, so gear up for this one. If we go back in time to the law of curiosity and our basically our 7 stages of life that we go through every 7 years, post the imprint stage, which is moves around middle school, that's where we start shaving edges off our personality, right? We want to fit in. It's called subconscious modeling. We're going to fit into these groups. We're at athletics, we're in the drama club, we're over in cheerleading, wherever we are, we start shaving edges off. We continue to do that process all the way up into our business career. And here's the challenge. The thing that you stuffed down, that you compressed, you suppressed, and you put down in the dungeon of yourself, most likely that you would classify yourself as a misfit is most likely where your mastership lives. And so part of this is allowing yourself to be a geek and a dork and a ham and a knucklehead, because that's exactly what is necessary when you understand how to put it in the archetypal symbology. Now that part of that you've hidden, that you've shaved off to fit in, is exactly what your company needs. And now it propels you to that success that you're looking for.
Wow.
So how do you flip that around, right? And use it to work for yourself?
Download the app.
It's
all in there for you. And let me qualify that, because I want to be the guy. I hold myself in contempt all the time about this, because I was one of those guys that stood on the stage with a bunch of other guys, and say, hey, go to the back room and buy my thing for $20,000, $30,000. And I cognitively knew, I was aware that if some 85% of the people would never do anything when they walked out the door. I couldn't live with that anymore. And that's not the legacy I personally wanted, or that she wanted, or any of our other great teachers in the company. And so we said, wait a minute. If everybody had this app is designed, it's got an E-rating for everyone. So families can go through this. Our kids go through it. They're a part of this company as well. Have fun with this so that we can go ahead and do this together. And that's how you turn it into advantage when you're still in it.
Excellent. I see Richard doing the twirly pen.
I'm doing the twirly pen, which is our sign that we have to take a commercial break, but we'll be back with more Passage to Profit from Travis and Michelle Fox, our guests, who are the creators and founders of Ultimate Business Quest. And you need to check out their website. It sounds absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to start using this app and, improving my business life.
I'm going to start using it. So if you don't, you're going to be behind me.
I'm already behind you. So in more ways than one, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and we have 2 fantastic guests, Travis and Michelle Fox. I just learned so much from just their discussion, and I think that they have such an amazing product, and I just can't wait to get started with it. So,
and what was the name of their website again?
It was the Ultimate Business Quest.
And it's an app.
So you can put it on your phone.
And it's really fun. So I downloaded it before the show, and I can hardly wait to start using it.
Yeah, sounds great.
Now we need to move on.
We do. And it's time for Power Move. Kenya, who is power moving today?
So for Power Move today, we are highlighting Angie Nwando. She is the founder and CEO of The Shade Room, which is a multimedia empire that reaches about 27.6 million followers on Instagram alone. And now she's going to be launching the Shade Room shop that's going to create an opportunity to diversify the business community by allowing Black-owned brands to leverage her network of over 40 million followers. So
nice.
Just awesome way to level up there.
Yeah. That's really a wonderful gift to allow aspiring businesses to utilize her network, and that's really generous, I think.
Yeah. Well, and people are always looking for new products, and where do you find the latest stuff? And it's really cool that she's going to help these people get the word out there about their stuff and help people find new things too.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing. Elizabeth, now it's your turn to talk about at least one, maybe 2 of your businesses. So please, what's been going on with you lately?
Well, so I changed Fireside to Blue Streak, and I'm getting the website worked on now so that I can do a soft launch again. For those of you who don't know, Blue Streak is a video directory of small businesses and online. And what I'm doing with it is kind of disrupting the way directories have been done, because all of them are location based, and this is not location based. This is based on business type, and it's going to be businesses that do not need a location to function. So I'm pretty excited about getting this website done. It's going to be short video and long video. So that's in the works. And then I also am starting a podcast about.
This is like the big announcement, isn't it? This is like the launch of your podcast.
Well, I announced it last week too, but yeah, I mean, it's coming very soon. It's about cats. I love cats, and I adopted a kitten that I didn't know he was sick when I got him, but he keeps scratching his face. I've had him to 3 different vets, spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to cure this poor little guy. And the 3rd vet is a holistic vet, still hasn't gotten the answer for me. So anyway, Richard suggested I start a community that to try to just ask people that have cats, have you ever seen this before? So I decided to start a podcast. The next day I met the perfect person to help me, Danielle Woolley, who does a lot of rescue work with cats. So we're starting the podcast, but I did actually have an intellectual property question. And then I found out from Dr. Travis that it goes beyond intellectual property. We were discussing it before the show. We hired a young woman to write some music for us for the intro and outro for the podcast. And I was asking her, she had a contract. She didn't really have one. I think she's freelancing on this, but she belongs to a guild. So I'm going to have to get if I know any good attorneys that do contracts, I have to get my
looking
attorney.
around the room right now, seeing if I can find somebody.
But I was worried about copyright because the creator owns the copyright.
Yeah, I think you right. In general, if you don't have a contract, then the person who creates the work owns the copyright. So you do have to make sure that you have a contract that covers all the bases, ensuring that you and the company that you created own all the rights.
And then Dr. Travis had another idea about that. So do you want to say what you told me?
As long as we are so disclosed that the lawyer in the room is over there and I'm not it.
Right.
Just from my experience in television, it was owning the publication rights and also controlling your mechanical and syncs, depending on where the show goes. Because I think one of the mistakes that all of us make as an entrepreneur is we're only focused on that next step. Oh, I need to get the copyright done. Yeah, well, that's great. Well, what happens if this show gets bought? It goes to television, it becomes a series, it becomes a film. Well, if you don't have that, now the entire identity that you've built from the inception of this podcast, now all of a sudden has to be re-architected. Well, that may be a good thing depending on what you're doing, but for most often you lose the brand architecture and the core identity of the brand that you built to get to that moment. Because back in the beginning, I was only short-sighted going, well, I've got my copyright, I'm protected. It's the foreshadowing of the things that you may or may not have happen, but it's better to have that net wide as absolutely possible, because the if then isn't become a, oh no, I wish I coulda, or I wish I shoulda.
Right. And
Right.
I think it's always important, just as a general matter, as Travis mentions, that you do things when you're starting a business, you get the foundation documents set up, that you get your LLC properly structured, that you get an operating agreement, that you make sure that your name that you're going to use for the business is not going to duplicate somebody else's name. All of these steps are not necessarily super expensive, but if you wait for a year and a half, 2 years, especially if you have partners in the business, other people who are working or putting money in, it can create a lot of hassles later on down the road. So,
Right.
in general, and that's what you've done. You've
Right.
got
We
your
have an LLC, we have an operating agreement, we have a bank account, and we have 2 intent to use trademarks. Because for something like a podcast, the branding is going to be the most important thing. So we have to lock down those trademarks. And I did a search, and they look like they should go through. Of course, you never know with the government office, but
you may have to sue them in
Jump in on
small
that,
claims
maybe.
court when the
Yeah.
government sues your podcast name.
yeah.
Right. May I jump in on that? So you did a trademark search, but the trademark search is narrow. It's only going to respond on what's the name. It's when you get into the different sectors. And this is where, and again, you guys are going to love me, but this is an ad promotion. You need to get competent counsel representation who understands patent, trademark, and copyright law, not your general GP, but a firm that actually focuses on it, because you'll find often more than not, when you do a trademark search, oh God, my name's great, nobody's using it. Yeah, that's true in that sector. What about all these other sectors that we haven't thought about? So part of the brainstorming of an entrepreneur, and again, I'll talk about the app later, but that's my part. You go in there as a team, you go, what if? What if we do this? What if it becomes that? What if it becomes that? And dream, not the next step. Go as wide as you can from inception, not at the end of the day, as you just heard a moment ago, because by the time you get there, if it shows up, it's not going to be a couple of bucks. It's going to be a couple $1 million that you're going to have to defend, and you may not win because the courts don't guarantee a win.
Right. I'm lucky to have dedicated intellectual property attorneys helping me.
In-house counsel.
And I should be compensated for that. So, but your general point is well taken, and that you can do a search yourself, and maybe before you go to an attorney, you do a search, but you really have to make sure. There's a lot of different ways these things can get screwed up, and so we've lived through many of those screw ups. We've seen a lot of fact patterns where things haven't worked out, and so we can help you avoid those mistakes that you may not be aware of because you haven't had the same experience. And so Travis is absolutely right. And
it's really tricky because even if somebody hasn't trademarked your exact thing, if it's close enough, then you're in trouble.
Right.
So enough of that. Thank you, Travis. That was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Travis.
And thank you, Richard. So now we're on.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Good night, John Boy.
Now we're on to Gearhart Law client Caleb Ulffers. And I'm telling you, I went on his website and looked at what he had. And it's, if you go to the gym, you want this. You know what? If you want to get somebody a gift who's a gym rat, get them this. So please, Caleb, tell us all about it.
Yeah. So I run Haven Athletic. We make organized gym bags for high performance athletes. And we start, I mean, I can kind of tell you anything and everything, but we started because it was my own personal frustration looking for gear in my bag. And as we researched into this idea and potential problem, we found out that bags, especially duffel bags, hadn't changed since the 1980s. And in 2016, we were looking at athletes, and we have $300 percussion massagers and air-powered leg recovery boots and technology that helps us advance, and all of this gear still being put in this simple kind of $20 bag that we all grew up taking to like PE and weekend travel. Most people still had a bag like 15 years old, and we're like, this seems inefficient. And athletes have grown and changed a lot, and kind of inspired by the idea of organization like Marie Kondo and tidying up and the Container Store, and how myself, I'm kind of, we don't say OCD, we say organized, clear, and focused. But it's just like the organization in the rest of my life was not translating to the gym, which was an area that was really important to me, spending a couple hours a day in the gym, spending hundreds of dollars on gear and on my gym membership. And I was like, this doesn't really make sense. So I think we want to start trying to fix it.
I applaud you. And looking at your website, well, why don't you describe your product for our audience who is mostly listening, and so if you can describe it for them, that would be great.
Got it. Yeah. So we started with a duffel. We now also have a backpack, but the big things that we looked at were, we just interviewed people, athletes. And because I'm an athlete myself, like I kind of knew some of the issues, but we talked to a lot of people and said, what's the problem? Do you like your bag? Do you not like your bag? If you don't like it, what is it about it that you don't like? And we pulled out kind of 3 or 4 main things, and it was structure. So having the bag stand up on its own, so when you open it, you can actually see inside of it instead of it collapsing down. And then organization, dividers. And we decided to sew the dividers in, which is kind of one of our unique things and why we decided to go for a patent. As we thought about the gym, we were like, if you have Velcro mixed with Lycra and polyester type of gym clothes, or powders like chalk and protein and whatnot, those don't blend very well. So we're like, let's sew these in to make it very easy to separate your gear out. Let's make a specific spot for your shoes, which several things about that, like the normal, if there is a shoe spot, it's normally a bag and it gets kind of collapsed and you have to like shove your shoes into the bag. And that's a whole difficult thing. So we made a very formed, structured compartment specifically for your shoes that also has a vent on the doorway to it, so your shoes don't reek inside your bag. And then we also just made it super durable. We have a 5-year warranty on it because we use the top of the line materials, from the hardware to the YKK zippers to the 1080D ballistic nylon exterior to the ripstop interior. I don't know if any of that will make sense to anyone, but essentially
it's bulletproof.
It's bulletproof. Yeah.
Wow.
Without Kevlar, but yeah.
But you know what?
Well, if you're in the city, that may come in handy.
That struck me when I saw it on your website and is reinforced here and you talk about it now. I think this is more than a gym bag. This is a great overnight bag for a weekend getaway.
Mhm.
Like for me personally, because I mean, I don't usually use, like, rolling suitcases are heavy and they're a hassle and stuff. Like I'll sling something over Richard's shoulder and have him carry it. But this is a great product because just having that sewn in organization, like I don't want my shoes touching my blouses, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you mean
We
they
have a lot of
been?
people.
You
no,
mean they have
I've
been?
had to go to great
I mean, I've
lengths to
touched your
se-
blouses that have touched your shoes.
No, I've gone to great lengths to keep them separate, and it's a hassle. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I love the idea. So I am
Thank you.
an amateur, super amateur. I don't know if there's like a word below amateur, but I'm
You are
a below
not.
amateur triathlete. And so I've
Yes.
got all sorts of gear. I've got
Mhm.
gear for the
Yes.
run. I've got gear for the bike. I've got gear for the swim. And I throw it all into a single duffel bag. And, everything is black. I mean, my chest strap, my watch, my Garmin. And,
Yep.
and so you throw it in there and it's really hard to find. You're fishing around with stuff. And something like this is just would make the whole event so much easier.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for this
Yeah,
development.
Michelle has her hand up. Travis and Michelle, we want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Can I brag on my wife for 30 seconds? And Caleb, I am absolutely in love with you in the most, whatever, I'm in love with you, deal with it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm over here jonesing because Michelle's a full-time competitive bodybuilder on top of being a CEO and a wife and a mother. And what you're describing it, we've been through it. She's NPC winner, the whole deal. Absolutely frustrating. We're buying your bag after the show.
Yep.
I've been waiting
Yes.
for a bag like that. Thank you for solving that, because you're absolutely right. It's the powder of the things. I mean, God forbid your protein powder blows up in your bag, which happens never,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
especially if you're traveling.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
inventing the product.
Yeah. We have several IFBB pros talking about how, there are multiple bikinis and shoes and the backstage stuff and the tanning oil and like everything. They're like, it's so great backstage to have all of those things separate.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm in.
All right.
I'll
Well,
buy.
the segment's over.
No.
Yeah. Everyone's buying the bag. We're good to go.
We're good
Yeah.
to go.
Kenya goes by Coach Kenya because she's a workout queen too. So Kenya, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I love this. My stuff is all over the place, and I'm usually running into the gym with my cycling shoes and like my mat. So I'm
Mhm.
curious to know though, do you plan on creating anything for like the Pilates people of the world that have that mat that we drag around with us along with every other thing? Because it's hard to find a bag that supports all of that.
Yeah, definitely. So we started with a pretty intense focus, which I'm sure as you've talked to entrepreneurs and, maybe you guys talk about this in your app as well. But there's niches and riches. Wait, the opposite way. There's riches in niches, which is focusing in on a specific type of customer. So rather than saying like, here's a bag, it's built for any athlete and travel and everyone, and people don't really get it. So we said, this is a bag for CrossFitters. This is a bag for people who specifically practice CrossFit and go to CrossFit gyms and understand CrossFit ideology, and all of the pictures and the athletes that we use and the gear that is filled in the bag is for CrossFit. And we have found since that it does work kind of across the board for all sorts of other sports and athletes. But there's some like Orange Theory or Pilates or Soul Cycle spin classes where you don't have quite so much gear. And so taking like the large gym bag, which is a pretty large duffel, doesn't really make sense for them. And so we actually have a couple of different nationwide companies that we're talking to now about how we could make the same idea organized bag, but in kind of a smaller shape form for those type of athletes.
Excellent. So everybody wants to buy these now. Where do we get them?
Yeah, just on our website at havenathletic.com.
That's really great. And what I'm picking up here is that you love working out and you love being organized, and you manage to marry those two passions together and create a successful business. So are you are you having a good time doing this? Is this something that you're enjoying?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Having a
good.
blast. It's been a hobby since I was 15, from being a gym rat, trying to get big like my older brother, to playing various sports in college, and then to ultimately finding I practiced the sport of CrossFit, I guess you could say, and been in that for a while and really love the competitive side of it, and really enjoy doing that every day. And then being able to focus on that in business and work with athletes in the sport and just be involved in that way. It's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We're all going to go on our phones now and order these.
Yeah.
So once again, it's havenathletic.com.
Yes, that's right.
And thank you. So we're on to our next guest now, Mark Bonin with planned.com, an event planning site, which if you go on his website and look at it, you will be blown away. I was. So please tell us all about it, Mark.
Thanks for having me. So we're an event planning platform. So we help on one side the event planner, admin assistant, or if you're working on a company and someone come to you and say you need to organize an event, we're the platform to help you. We'll help you to find the venue, the hotel, the catering, the equipment, the AV, everything you need. And then our platform helps you actually to organize the event. And on the other side, we help the manager or the procurement to have access to all the data, to enforce policy, to have visibility and control over that spend. Been in business since 5 years.
Yeah, it's one thing I really like about it is you have this whole money management feature on there. So you have what needs to be paid when, and it's all right there.
Yeah, going to. Oh, sorry, I cut you.
No.
I was just going to say money is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So please say what you're going to say. Right.
I was just going to say, like, people don't know that actually, but the corporate travel industry, this is 533 billion. So that's a huge industry. And you have a lot of software that help company to control that spend. You can have Concur, TripAction, TravelPerk, like a lot of big businesses. But the event management or the corporate event industry is actually bigger. So it's 1,000 billion a year. And going to a recession, we think that enterprise will still want to do event, but will want to make sure they maximize that spend and get the most out of it. So this is where we see our place.
So would this site be for anyone who wants to put on an event, or are you mostly working with event planners or event planners in big companies?
It's for anyone, but that works in a large enterprise. So let's say if we work with a bank, or usually it's large tech accounting firm, we'll work with the planner, but also like the admin assistant or the marketing person or the salesperson who's planning this cocktail with client or that holiday party or that team offsite. So we're trying to facilitate for everyone, but we started by doing weddings and baby shower actually, but we move away from that space.
Got it. So is there any personal interaction from your staff with respect to how the website works, or is it all automated?
It's a mix. Like events is about like people and relationships. So it's very similar to Airbnb in a sense for the planner, but we do offer concierge service, or sometimes people have questions about, I'm doing an event in Cincinnati or Buffalo, which space should I take? And our team is there to support and provide help.
Yeah, I noticed that on your site. It was really cool that you had vendors. So if I wanted to do something, say in a city I've never been to before, everything I need is right there. I can get the venue, I can get the vendors, I can get the DJ, and it's like white glove service.
Right. Caterers and
you've
caterers
and they've been vetted.
Caterers.
So right. So they've been vetted, so they're not on your site unless they're people that you would recommend, right?
Yeah, it's all about curation, because we're usually working with large enterprise. If you recommend a vendor which is not vetted and they have a bad experience, then they won't come back for the next event. So the biggest Our biggest team within our company is actually our supply team, trying to find the best and new vendors all across North America.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So how did you get involved in this industry, and what motivated you to create this app?
So quick story, I started a business when I was my first year of university, and it just failed. Like we went 2 years, tried to build a business, and we kind of lost everything within that business. But I met my partner, partner Emmerich at that business was called Ulffers. So back in, I think that was summer 2017, we're together and just spitballing idea about what we could build as a business. And we solar car, solar condo, by East Solar's condo. I didn't have a condo at that point of time. And we put together like 6 months of just cash, and come with the idea of launching a marketplace for office spaces. So our goal was to basically help people find office space, build a product, build a platform, launch it. Just didn't work. We made $27 of revenue in 4 months. So it just clearly didn't work. But we had that marketplace and that platform. So we decided to add all the category of spaces we can think of, like offices, cottage, house, event space, and ending up making 50K of sale that month with event space. So we used Christmas, rebuild the product, and relaunch in 2018 as a really Airbnb for event space. So we'll do wedding, baby shower, like a bit of everything. Started to get a bit more momentum. So every month we were growing, and we raised about like $1.5 million at the end of 2018 to keep growing the business. 2019 realized enterprises were like definitely our clients because they were coming back and would start to work with one planner in the insurance company, and 3 months later we'll work with 10 planners. So that was like really our niche. So we keep building for that. And we went to our board at the end of 2019 with the idea of launching in the US. I don't know if you can tell with my accent, but I'm from Quebec, so I have a pretty strong French accent. But the real business for us was in the US. So we tell our board we want to go to the US. We'll raise money in 2020. So mid 2020, we'll go for what we call a seed round, so raise more money. And they give us a check, basically raise about 4 mil, and open in the US. We scale a company from like 15 to 47 people, and our revenue was growing fast. And then COVID happened. So from one day to the other, we lost all our revenue. Basically, we had to reimburse a couple of million in booking. And we had, at that point of time, 47 people and no revenue and 5 months of runway in the bank account. So we're dead in four months. So we basically decided to, and that was the hardest decision we ever had to do, but we had to lay off 80% of our staff. We kept our best engineers and keep building for in-person event during COVID when virtual seems like the new reality. And we built for 18 months without any revenue. But our goal was to build the best platform. And we thought that if at the end of the pandemic, we're well positioned, we'll be able to basically get contract and really be the platform that people would use when in-person events would come back. And short story, end of 2021, went to market, and yeah, we're back in business now.
That's an amazing story of persistence and agile business development.
True entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
To see something doesn't work, move on to the next. But I can see that the foxes need to say something here.
Way to pivot. I think that's what business owners really truly forget to do, especially backed up into a wall of that type of tough decision of laying people off. But if that is the only way to keep your company afloat for a period of time, or to give you that time to pivot, it is a hard choice. But you know, the CEO has to make it alone sometimes. But it definitely proved. And way to pivot. I mean, bravo. And how many times you pivoted, which that is a true entrepreneur that will stay in business for a lot longer than one that is so incredibly stuck in their ways of it has to be this product and it has to go this direction. That's not what entrepreneurship is all about in any way, shape, or form. So congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to hear from Kenya too, because Kenya does a lot of, or did do a lot of events before COVID. Kenya, what do you think?
Well, Mark, you answered my question about what did you do during the pandemic, right? I mean, goodness gracious. And I feel like Dr. Travis should have you on his platform training entrepreneurs, because that mindset that you have, right, to shift and make things work is just really remarkable. I was going to ask you, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are out there that you could share that helped you really stay the course, especially in that 4-month period where you practically lost everything and had to lay people off? Like, what was your mindset like to get through that part?
That's the sometimes it's to believe into your conviction. So at that point of time, everyone was shifting to virtual. So we'd see like virtual event company raising a lot of money and just making like a big splash. But we just didn't believe the future for events was virtual. At least we could win on that. So we just stick to our guns. Like we had a conviction, and at that point we just built enough conviction to keep going for that. So for us, that was the thing. In the partnership, I think like Dr. Travis and Michelle was talking about that. Like I have that type of, I'm not in business with my girlfriend, but I build that type of trust with my partner. So I think in those type of moments, to be alone, like a solo entrepreneur, is be so hard. But when you have a true partner, it really helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
You must have had, it must have been an enormous gamble though, to stay with the in-person events in the middle of this COVID epidemic where everything was going virtual, and many things are still virtual, right? What convinced you, what convinced you that this was not, virtual was not going to be the permanent way going forward?
So I do think virtual event will happen, and that will be a big slice of the market, but I just didn't thought we could win, because I didn't thought we were the best people for execute on virtual. That was not our passion. We're just not passionate about that. So I thought if we pivot on that, best case we're okay company, but we'll never be game changing or create something that is really meaningful. Versus if we stick to our gun, the risk is maybe higher, but we really have a shot to create a business that will be meaningful and to win our market. So we kind of use the less, like the regret minimization framework. So I never thought I would have regret to stay to in person versus going virtual. I think we'll have just regret it in the future.
Right. And I mean, the hope is COVID won't be haunting us and stalking us forever, because people do want in-person events, and they want hybrid too, but people want to get out there and see other people and share food with them. And
I remember the first in-person networking event that I went to after things around COVID relaxed. It was so much better than doing a virtual event. I just felt like the communication and the contacts, and maybe it's because too I hadn't done it for a while, but I don't think, virtual can in some respects replace in person for certain types of communication, but for other types of you can't really have an event, a virtual event. It just doesn't work.
Awkward,
right?
Like
it's
it's
the difference between being present at a Broadway show and watching the show on television. There's just no comparison.
Well, it really is like that, because when you're doing virtual stuff, you can wear your sweatpants. You can put your Zoom filters on.
I'm wearing my sweatpants right now. You promised you weren't going to bring that up.
A lot of our company are sorry.
No, go ahead.
A lot of our company actually virtual or remote first company. But what they realize is just to create that culture, they still need to find ways to bring people together. And these days, if you're going to ask someone to drive from the South Shore or any place and go downtown, the event needs to be like spectacular. So this is where I think events are important to create that culture, and create great events is even more important than before COVID.
Right. So the Foxes, I saw one of you pointing at the other when I was talking about the sweatpants.
I'm in my sweatpants now.
Oh, okay. We're all for authenticity here. So, Mark, though, so it's an interesting comment you made because I think what you say is true. Lots of times people struggle to get people to come to events. And so if you're going to make the effort now to take the trip, you really have to do something that is going, you need Bruce Springsteen or somebody like that to, get people out of their chairs, and into the
Or
thing.
super good food.
Or
Like
super-
I saw he had some
But you
restaurants.
don't know
on there.
that though until you get there, right?
Well, if you know of the restaurant, if you're in the area and you know they're the ones catering, then you might.
But I was going to just ask Mark. So, what are some of the super duper things that you do to get people to come to events other than being part of a company that forces you to go?
Yeah.
You need to make it an experience. That's a trend we started to see before COVID, but even amplify after. So the experience can be the venue. Like you cannot go to the same hotel room like every time for every event you do for your company. People will just get annoyed and not come back. But if you find a art gallery, a museum, or a cool patio or terrace, then you have more chance to get people. Food is really important, so that was a good one. And then can you bring a DJ or some type of experience that will just make it unique? If you do that, people show up. But if you go always with the same recipe and just copy paste, that just don't work. We see attendees rate being lower for those type of events actually.
That's
really
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good information.
So I told you food was important.
Well, food is always important. Usually a little more important to you than it is to me, but
I don't know about that.
oh, you trust me. She remembers meals that we had 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I guess we didn't know each other 30 years ago, but anyway. Well, Mark, thank you very much for sharing your experience. We have to jump off now for a commercial break. Where can people find you?
Yes, thank you. Your website.
It's plan.com.
Super great. So go to plan.com if you're an event organizer, and everything will be right at your fingertips. And we'll be right back on your fingertips right after this commercial break. Now it's time for Noah's retrospective. Noah Fleischman is our producer here at Passage to Profit, and he has a way of putting his best memories in perspective.
When I was a kid in grammar school, the best time of the year was that 10-day winter holiday break. You know why? Because I had the best treat in the world waiting for me over those 10 days. Television. Specifically, the movies. We didn't have things like Netflix or subscription services or video cassette recorders to watch movies of our choice on. We had to rely on the television stations, those 6 stations on that one dial, usually less than 6, to serve up those great movies, things that they went back into the archives for and pulled out only once a year. Special films meant to entertain kids my age. Things like the golden age of silent comedy, Buster Keaton, Paul Winchell, Jerry Mahoney, The Three Stooges. Great musicals like A Hard Day's Night starring the Beatles, which only ran at 1 o'clock in the morning, thank you very much. But I got to stay up to see it. It was great. Cartoon features like The Man Called Flintstone and Hey There, It's Yogi Bear. Wow, it was fabulous. A 10-day period of all these rare movies. I couldn't wait. It was great. Of course, there was that one time of the year when we'd all end up at a holiday dinner at my aunt's house, and usually around 5 in the afternoon, a great classic rare movie like Go-Go Mania with the Spencer Davis Group would be playing around 5:30. My cousin and I would be in the den watching this and jamming to it along with Spencer Davis and the band. All of a sudden, my mother would come marching in right in the middle of the number, click the TV off, and yell, "Get in there, it's time for dinner." "But Mom, it's the Spencer Davis Group, for heaven's sakes." "I don't care, it's dinner time, now get in there." Well, that was it for Go-Go Mania. But you know what? It played every year around that time. Gave me something to look forward to next holiday.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit, and Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart have been with you for the last 45 minutes, 50 minutes, depending on the station. And it's time for Elizabeth's question. So
Right. So everybody gets to answer the same question. So I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to start with Mark. Mark, if you could get one gift for your business for the holidays, what would you ask Santa Claus for?
Um, I would say to keep our company culture intact or to keep building that same type of company culture as we grow. Um, I would say that's the most like business is about people. We're proud of the culture we have internally, so we want to keep it as we grow, I would say.
That's excellent. And what about you, Caleb?
An investment from Serena Williams. Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest
sure she
athletes of
is.
all times, and super in depth in the sports world. And we eventually are going to make a tennis bag, and so I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Serena, if you're listening, please.
Way to go for it, man.
I think she have a venture fund actually.
Oh,
She's
Yeah,
making
she does.
investment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, there you go. So, Kenya, what do you want from Santa Claus?
Well, I need somebody to help me build an app for my fitness thing that I'm working on. So,
Ooh, okay.
yeah.
So I see the foxes kind of perking up their foxy ears.
Awesome. Ask and you shall receive, right?
There
We can
you
do
go.
that. We can do that.
What do you guys want for your business?
An event for all of everybody that's in our entire organization, which is about 70 plus people, but that would be everybody from India and all of the other countries to be able to fly in and have an amazing event just to have fun.
Wow. We should go work for their company.
Yeah. We'd like to fly in from India too.
I know some great software you can use to plan it.
Right?
And a bag to travel with.
What was that?
Wow, it all just sort of comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so Travis, what are you asking Santa Claus for your business this year?
Yeah, great question. I'd like every middle school and high school to download the app and make this course fully accredited so that everyone can actually start their entrepreneur journey when they're masters, which is when we're kids.
That is such a fantastic idea. Just quickly, I always felt like they should, like when a kid hits junior high or high school, they should have them form business teams and start a business in high school so that they learn, and then they learn, then it gives more credibility to what they're learning. Like they want to learn. So like we're on the same wavelength with this.
We're actually going through that process as we speak. We're going through accreditation as we speak.
Yep.
For that very reason that you just said, because that's when we dream. That's when we don't change our dreams in for hope. We're still dreamers.
Yep.
Very much like
Okay.
the other guests on the show. They're still dreamers. God bless all of you. Thank you for still dreaming.
Oh, that's excellent. So Richard, what do you want for, well, you have a few different things going on
Yeah. Peace and goodwill
for your business,
in my business. Yes.
in your business. Hey, well, my Blue Streak business just needs a boatload of cash.
So you want a gift card?
Well, no, I'm going to do the Foxes app. I'm going to go through that. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to have everything I need for my business, right? So maybe that's what I need from Santa
Okay.
or from Travis and Michelle.
Okay.
So
Both work.
All right. So that's good.
to go to recap who was on the show, we had Dr. Travis Fox and Michelle S. Fox, founders of Ultimate Business Quest. And you can find them at ultimatebusinessquest.com. I have downloaded it. I am dying to try it.
And there's a little guy on the side you told me about who has like an axe, who's like a bad guy, I guess, or an angry customer that chases after you. You were telling me this morning when we opened.
I was watching the trailer, the little video they have on there, and the guy said an orc was coming and he was like shooting an arrow into something. So
Oh, I thought it was an axe.
where did that come from?
In the new version, you'll see that.
I can't. I mean, how could I make that up? You know, I mean,
You have a very creative brain sometimes. I have no idea. Anyway, and then we had Caleb Ulffers with Haven Athletic, havenathletic.com, spelled just like it sounds, with the most incredible organized gym bags. So if you are going to the gym or you know somebody who likes to go to the gym, go to his website, havenathletic.com, and buy one of these for yourself or somebody that needs one.
yep, Haven's got it in the bag.
And then Mark Bonin with planned.com. If you want to do a live event and you want to take the hassle out of it and have everything at your fingertips, like soup to nuts, go to Mark's website, plan.com.
Yeah, and it's an amazing website that pulls it all together. So anyone doing an event has all the resources that they need in one place.
And vetted resources. Right. So he's vetted everybody on there. So you know you're getting good people.
Well, that's a great show. Unfortunately, we need to sign off for this week, but we'll return to the station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. Before we go, I'd like to thank the Passage to Profit team, Noah Fleischman, our producer, Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. Our podcast can be found tomorrow anywhere you find your podcast. Just look for the Passage to Profit show. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, while the information provided during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without checking with your legal professional. That's it for now. We'll see you next week on another episode of Passage to Profit.